Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Campo and welcome back to my channel. On today's video, we've got the 9th war of the Alliance War season. We are 3 weeks into this season with just 3 wars remaining, and I just wish everybody the best. I hope that you are doing what you want this Alliance War season and getting where you want to be, and you can clutch out those last few wars in the last week. I do have to say before I start the clips today that this has been the most fun in an Alliance War season that I've ever had. And it really has to do with both my battle group. I've got so many friends and new friends that I've made in this group who are excellent players. And really even more than that is the planning that goes into these wars, because we make sure that everybody gets in there with comfortable counters for their lanes, and nobody feels overburdened with like more than 7 or 8 fights at the absolute max. Everybody pulls their weight. Everyone has the same mentality, and it's just been fantastic. So we ended up against this alliance, GOM P, Poseidon, and they are sort of a scrappy, not pushing AQ type alliance who really focuses on alliance war. And on paper, it was a little bit of a mismatch because we have a much higher prestige and we also have a higher war rating. But I do know 2 people in this alliance. One of them is MU8S, Bryce, who is one of my friends on Vega's Discord server. And he is an outstanding player. I'm actually going to link his channel down in the description. He has a rank 3 war machine that he brings to almost every war, and he takes out whatever the bishop mini boss is on whatever node. So I would highly recommend checking that out. And also I have another friend that I've played with for about a year. His name is Plant Based, and he and I used to kind of be on the same side of the map in one of our previous alliances. So we were really close, and it took a lot of the same fights every war together, and it was really fun. So just shout out to Plant as well. But this war in particular, I would say, was probably the most fun I've had in any war. And it really has to do with the team that I brought. I got to bring in 3 of my favorite rank 3s, Elsa, Cosmic Ghost Rider, and for the first time in months, Mysterio. And what this really came down to is something I want to talk about before we start, which is like when you're planning a war, are you going to counter the node, or are you going to counter the champion? Because often you need to choose one or the other. And in section 1, I think for sure I am countering the node, as we'll see with this Elsa versus Terrax fight. But in section 2, I was on path 9, and I had this rare opportunity where like all the Dr. Dooms and the AAs and the Human Torches and Apocalypses and stuff were all sent out on the war map to go in different directions. But there was this really funky lane on lane 9 that had it was a Killmonger followed by a Void followed by a Domino, which, those are pretty annoying defenders anywhere. And to find counters for those champs back to back to back is pretty difficult, especially if you're trying to do it with only 1 or 2 champs. But because I already had Elsa, we were thinking Elsa versus Void for sure on the window of opportunity stun. But then I was like, I think I can fit CGR and Mysterio to take the Killmonger and the Domino respectively. And it ended up just being like this really high pressure but fun situation at the end of the war, where I took on these very difficult defenders with just probably the best counters for them in the game in terms of just shutting down their abilities and hard countering them. So we'll get to that eventually, but I want to start first with this Terrax fight. So we're going to start the clip right now. And as I said before, this is an example of countering the node before you counter the champion, because Terrax, you don't think of Elsa as being a Terrax counter, but when you look at this node, it's got long distance relationship, it's got a heal block, he's going to be putting armor breaks on you, so you're just getting a barrage of non-damaging debuffs, and Elsa can shrug these things all day, and based on this node, she is able to convert them into passive furies. So we kind of start by taking a couple blocked hits, then we do her counter evade, we start hitting into him. Anytime we get these non-damaging debuffs, as you can see, they're just being purified one by one, they're being converted into furies, so that we basically always have 2 or 3 of these passive furies. She's absolutely hitting like a truck. Because she doesn't have any debuffs on her, he's not gaining any furies. He's also not reducing our ability accuracy. And there you go. So you know, you may be tempted to bring Clairvoyant or something here, but a champion who is going to get all those weakness debuffs on them, it's just going to interact with the node in a very, very bad way, and you're not going to have a good time. So that was our example of countering the node. And now that we get onto section 2, I already gave you a little preview of this one, but it was just a blast. And, you know, maybe watching it again, it won't be as exciting for you, but when I was in this moment, I just felt like this was such a cool war plan for me to be taking these 3 fights. And, you know, even though it was only 4 fights total, it felt like I was really contributing and adding to the diversity of the team. So here we go. We've got Window of Opportunity stun, and we've got One Eye open. So just don't stun Killmonger. So I'm trying to build some judgments. We start with the medium ending vigilance. I want to make sure I don't get backed up or anything. I can take blocked hits for days because it's my last CGR fight. We throw the power gain on, and I immediately throw my special 1. We complete 1 judgment cycle. Because he's got that permanent armor break, we've got no issues at all. I knew that I would have a little bit of extra power, so at this point I throw another power gain. Just block the beginning of that. We don't want to trigger decks. We keep going. We throw a giant special 2, stacking those armor breaks, getting both the cruelty and the precision. We haven't needed to throw any heavy attacks for the aptitude, but at this point, with all those armor breaks and with that precision buff that is just increasing our crit rate, it's going to be over very, very fast. So that was just CGR being CGR. He can really take Killmonger almost anywhere. I've taken 3 Killmongers this war season with CGR, all on different nodes, and it's just been a treat. So next up, we have Elsa versus Void. As I said in my first war video, a lot of these wars are just going to be like, where is the void? And let's just send Campo's Elsa to that void and then work around it. And that's what's going on here. The one thing that I did not calculate into this matchup is the fact that it has empowered immunity. And the way Elsa's abilities read is that if an Incinerate fails to apply on the opponent due to an immunity, you will apply a Cold Snap instead. So far I've only been doing the light ending busted debuffs. Again, just blocking stuff out, baiting heavies, trying to create openings that way. But at this point I throw a special 1, and that places 2 Cold Snaps. And I didn't quite understand what happened in that moment. But what did happen is those counted as immunities, and they triggered empowered immunity. It happened again right there. So it did throw me a little bit, but fortunately it didn't push him to a red bar of power. And even so, we did have an invulnerability boost going, so we were able to tank a special 3 if we absolutely had to, even though that would not be ideal at all. All right, so we're moving on to this Domino, and the reason I am so heavily boosted is basically because of this fight. Because as we all know, Domino just cheats sometimes. And, you know, I'm talking about her AI and the fact that she will hold her specials, that she's so aggressive with her dash and will just completely ruin your day on this node with kinetic transference. The reason I brought Mysterio is because he will never crit fail. So I luck out at the beginning there by her throwing a heavy, so I'm already sort of controlling this matchup. I threw my heavy because there's a Mr. Fantastic suppression on, and I'm assuming this isn't going to last for the entire fight, but if I could just keep it a little bit at the beginning, it might help. So she throws her special 2. Again, we're never going to crit fail, and our parries are always going to land because that's how Mysterio works against Domino. She's getting lucky every single time she crosses a bar of power. At the start of the fight, I was trying to do sort of like some step back medium hits to get her some openings without block, but I'm just feeling more confident parrying at this point. I'm using the special 2s primarily because it has the guaranteed power drain, and as you can see, that really brings a little bit of control back to the fight. The reason I took that hit was purely an accident. I thought that she threw a special 2, but the power drain pushed her to a special 1. So that was a little scary, but indestructible came through, and that's the only time we get hit. So I really need her to bait out this special 2. I'm fortunately able to push her back a little bit with blocked hits. She throws it. Excellent. We're back in business here. I'm not worrying about throwing any poisons because I want to have that power drain ready to go. Once again, she gets lucky. Then again, she's getting very close to red. We're trying to just get through this. I do have my special 2 as an emergency. I take a blocked hit. It's not a big deal. I try to get my special 2 off and it doesn't connect. I don't know what happened there. The power drain is helping. She's not being too aggressive. I knocked her down just to kind of create a little distance there. We can bait that out. She's very close to being dead. So I just need to kind of clutch out the end here and one more hit into a special 1, and that is enough to get her down. So yeah, definitely didn't look like it was a difficult fight, but I will tell you, when I was fighting, I was nervous the whole time, just because, like I said, Domino's AI and her ability to hold specials is just very, very scary at times. So yeah, that could have gone worse, but I'm very happy with the way it ended out. I think some of my in-fight reaction time saved me a little bit, and she also did cooperate at a few key moments in the fight. So I'm just going to move to Bishop here to provide some energy for my teammates, and that's going to do it for this war. As I said, it was only 4 fights, but I think this kind of showcases that, like, even if you only have 4 fights, they could be 4 very important fights. And especially because we went up like a scrappy alliance that we knew was going to give us a bit of a tough time if we let our guard down. Those ended up being very, very important fights to take, and it was allowing some of our other players to go in different directions, which is always nice. And last plug, I already talked about MU8's channel. Just also want to say thank you to DLL, who is another YouTuber. I'll link his channel below. I've mentioned him in a lot of my videos because he's the BG leader. And he gave me a very nice shout out in his last video, which I very much appreciate. So I do want to direct you back to his channel one more time. And I do think if you're interested in high tier wars, like we're in tier 1 now, in Platinum 1, sort of like toward the top of Platinum 1 now. If you're interested in that, I think it would be really cool to both watch my videos and his videos, because you get to see 2 players in the same battle group kind of on different sides of the map doing things slightly differently, because we have very different rosters, and in some ways we have very different play styles and approaches to the game. But it can kind of just show you that, you know, in order to succeed, everybody needs to pull their weight. Everybody needs to have a good sense of what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish with their fights. And yeah, I think it just might be a fun exercise to check out both videos, because we're both posting every single war. And between the 2 of us, you can really see a lot of the war map and how we tackle it together with the rest of the team. So anyway, we are 3/4 done with the season now, and just 3 more videos to go. And we'll see where everyone ends up. So thanks for checking this one out, and I will catch you guys in the next one.